I think you need to have good content and more than 0 viewers. And we do not have a recording space. We have some sensitive footage with us that we should not have.
Why am I not told about the topics beforehand?
We have to have an element of surprise. Yeah. You disgraced his name. You're out. You're banned from China.
You people who are racist, against blacks, against Asians.
What is that what you see in media? Is the extreme right or the extreme left?
BJP who haven't installed till now.
Welcome to episode 1 of Minimum Viable Podcast. This is actually episode number 3, but we did not have a name earlier, so let's just call this episode 1.
And the previous ones are just prologues.
No, let's just call this episode 3 because we are allowed to make changes and we are allowed to make mistakes in MVPs. So let's just call this 3 and we will add this branding. Or we will not add this branding.
But we can just add it, make up an intro of MVP and then slap it on to the previous ones.
Or we'll just say that this is the MVP starting from this podcast and everything else would go out as it is.
Or maybe the previous episodes were just the preparation for MVP. What comes before MVP?
But there's nothing before MVP.
But first of all, what does MVP mean?
MVP generally means most valuable player. It's an American slang term, I believe. But in terms of software, in the ecosystem of startups, MVP means a minimum viable product, and it can mean other things as well. For us, MVP means a minimum viable podcast.
So the podcast which has minimal effort but yet can be sold.
Yeah, it's the minimum you have to do to call yourself a professional podcaster.
I mean, we have a mic, we have a light, we have a camera. I guess that's enough.
Yeah, that's the MVP.
And what is the PVP, which means professional viable podcast, if that makes any sense?
I think you need to have good content and more than 0 viewers. When you don't have, I think our content will improve over time, but right now we don't have many viewers.
We could have put up stories on our socials and at least 1 or 2 of our friends would have come up.
Hello friends.
But in fact, just yesterday I put up a story of our previous podcast and my friend was asking where's the episode, where can I see it? And I said I'd put up a story when it goes out live. So
yes.
Kavish, I'm sorry bro.
So we should do that, but since this is an MVP, we are allowed to make mistakes. This is the minimum viable podcast.
Yeah, we're doing the bare minimum.
Yes, and this will go to YouTube and people can watch it later if they like it, if they like you, if they like me.
Okay.
And the topic, this is in line with what we did the last time.
But first of all, what's up with the setup today? You had 3 episodes in 3 different studios.
Nobody cares about your setup. Nobody is watching this. It doesn't matter. So we had 3 different setups, and the other podcasts are not live, so people will not know. Our 0 viewers will not know.
But this episode would go out after the previous 2 have gone on. So maybe when we are famous and someone is rewatching our old videos, then they may think about this.
The truth is that we do not have a recording space, and this is a co-working space, and we tried different rooms. The last episode that was shot on a bench where people kept walking in on us was perhaps the best space, but it's not the most private space, and we had to apologize to everybody who walked in. And I went to everybody and knocked on their doors and told them we are sorry that we captured you without your permission. I'm sure we have not knocked on every door. So we have some sensitive footage with us that we should not have. We took that against their permission.
I mean, they were just going in and out. It's not so sensitive in such case.
I mean,
if that was the case, half of the vloggers on the internet would be in jail by now.
I think we should have our own morals and we should try to live up to those morals. And my morals say that if you are capturing somebody on a frame, you should at least have the courtesy to let them know that we captured you either by mistake, and let them know that we'll blur their faces out. And this room, this smaller room, is closed. So if anybody walks out behind us, they won't see.
Got
it's already blurred. And since will not have many people walking in. I think the quality would improve. So we don't have to care, and I'll probably be less conscious sitting here.
Yeah. But we cannot stand this time.
Yes, we cannot stand this time, but we have.
We can flail our arms around.
We can play our arms around. We can talk properly. I think the lighting is great here. Please excuse the traffic, the noise.
The AC is also working there.
The AC is working. Last time we did not have an AC, so we have.
In our office, we do not have an AC.
Yeah,
it's the only cabin, and we've been here for 1 month, and that AC doesn't work.
We pay like crazy shit for a jail-sized room.
It's in central Delhi, so the rents are crazy high.
Yeah, and we don't have an AC. But we're leaving this place anyways. Coming back to the point, because this is internet. Like the attention span is so small that we cannot talk for 4 minutes about what we did wrong in the past 5 days, in the past 10 days. And this specific topic about working out is close to my heart. Because working out is one hack that you can do to change how your mind behaves. Before we get started, let's just introduce ourselves. So, we did not have a formal introduction.
Why am I not? Even before that, why am I not told about the topics beforehand? Why do I come on this set and I'm told about the topics right when our viewers come to know about it?
Because in the startup world, it's generally said that building a startup is like jumping out of a plane and making a parachute while you are in the air. And since this is a minimum viable podcast and we are trying to be scrappy, we are trying to build an audience, we are trying to be funny at the same time, we have to have a sense, we have to have an element of surprise.
Yeah, so why do I get to be the guinea pig of that element of surprise? You know, I can act, you can just tell me it's beforehand and say that you have to act surprised and I'd go like,
I don't want to have fake like YouTube thumbnail reactions.
I did theatre in school, which was
okay. I respect your art, but the truth is that even I didn't know what we will talk about, and I just made it up before coming here. I guess I told you like early in the morning.
You said, did you work out? That's all you asked me.
I said yes. I had that in mind. Like we'll be talking about working out. So I think I gave you a good hint. I gave you a womanly hint. That means you're not good at picking up hints.
That's just
yeah.
But let's move on.
Let's just assume this is your podcast, and why don't you introduce yourself and introduce me?
Okay, so hi, I'm Knighton, and this is MVP with Knighton and Shivek.
I am Shivek. I am trying to create a minimum viable podcast that is called the MVP. I generally talk about technology, I also talk about fashion, I talk about service, I talk about software, but everything I talk about is somehow connected to technology. Because we live in 2021. How do you not be connected to technology?
All I talk about is gaming.
And he talks about gaming, which is generally connected to technology.
It's all about tech.
Yeah. Everything is connected to technology. So even if you don't talk about technology, even if I'm talking about art and music, we're still talking to a mic.
But even the art and music are made by tech these days. So.
Yes. So we're surrounded by tech. We are drowning in tech, and it's a good thing to talk about the water we are drowning in. Coming back, so do you remember that in the last episode I told everyone that I had there was one lie?
Yeah, there's one lie.
There's one lie.
Even I didn't know that.
There was only one lie in that podcast, and the lie was that I did not lie, but I told you that I have lied.
You played an Inception,
double
cross.
Yes, it was a meta lie. Then people would think that there has to be a lie somewhere, and they'll probably watch back and probably they'll pay more attention.
Are you going to do that again this time?
Maybe, I don't know.
But that would get boring. But
yes.
That was very quick play. I was thinking about, he had told me that we'll give out one lie and the audience have to recognize that lie. And after the last episode, I was wondering, what was the lie? What was the lie? There were the opinions which cannot be lie, and there were facts.
Yes, subjective, yes. And facts are facts.
Facts were true.
Yeah.
So where was this lie?
And the lie was that we did not lie, but we told you that we did.
Damn.
Yeah, that's the kind of intellectual level that we have achieved.
Quentin Tarantino was he the director? He's calling us right now.
No, he's not. Probably he's calling you. He's not calling me right now because I left my phone. Like I'm focused on the Minimum Viable podcast.
Tarantino, sorry, we'll call you back soon.
I think we cannot address Mr. Tarantino as Tarantino. He deserves utmost respect. So I'm very sorry for. If you are watching this, Mr. Tarantino, I'm sorry for hurting your sentiment. I'm a huge fan. I don't know about him, but I respect your work.
You know, maybe 30 years from now, Mr. Tarantino comes up and he says, I have to maybe sponsor a podcast, and he just picks you and leaves me out because I was not a fan. Because today I said I'm not a fan.
Yeah, he'll probably pick you up because you have a better chance of blowing up since you are younger than me. And I'm older, and I'm only into building minimum viable podcasts. So
they're building into minimum stuff.
Yeah, no, not minimum stuff, just minimum viable podcasts.
Minimum viable podcast.
That's the MVP.
Coming back to workouts.
Why do you drift away from topics? What's your problem?
I mean, my other show is very fluid, so we just drift about topics and shit like that, and I have very interesting guests.
But probably these people who are watching this don't have any time to watch.
That's why they must be listening.
There's one person on the stream. Hello viewer. What's your name? Let us know in the comments.
Maybe typing on I'm bot.
Yeah, if you are a bot, please let us know. Tell us. Just put a check mark saying that I am a human. So we'll know that you're human, and we'll know that somebody is watching.
Then maybe we'll get more serious.
Yes, then we'll get more serious. Or probably not.
It's like just one person. I guess he's a bot. He's not, he or she or non-binary bot.
The bots don't have genders. Bots are bots. Like, let's keep the debate. Bots are whatever. Bots are assholes for that matter. Bots don't have feelings. You can call them anything. You can call them the N-word.
That's just sad. That's just. You know, the
Duolingo
bird. The Duolingo bird is very threatening. That's a bot. But he'll come and kill your family if you don't practice French 3 days in a row.
Okay. Let's respect the bot as well because they might take over the world with Skynet and cryptocurrencies.
And then they remember that you call them an asshole and they'll come for you first.
Probably they'll come for you. Because you call Tarantino, you did not respect Tarantino.
Yeah, but Tarantino is not taking over the world right now. No.
Yeah, but the knowledge of the bots would be created from the already existing knowledge in the world. In that world, Tarantino would be highly respectable. So in the mind of the bot, Tarantino is highly respectable, maybe even more so than itself. And you disrespected him, like you disgraced his name. And you assume that he would reach out to us. We are nobodies.
Hey, I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Why not?
Let's hope.
Nothing doesn't hurt.
Let's hope.
You know, if ever a zombie apocalypse or a bot apocalypse come out, I'm not gonna struggle to survive. I'm like, alright, chill, I'm done here. I'm just gonna go out, bro. Let me go in peace. Why do I have to put up a fight to live in a shitty world?
I think I will. Because zombies just walk in one direction, I'll just latch the door.
That just sounds like the stupid mobile ad games that come out, that zombies are coming and all you have to do is latch the door. But to buy that latch, you have to pay for a microtransaction.
I've already paid for that microtransaction with Indian rupees. So, we're already there, so I'll latch the door and I'll go to the first floor.
By any sort of apocalypse, do you remember that movie Blind or Bird Box?
I did not watch it.
Yeah, so the thing was they had to keep their eyes shut and there were some sort of monsters and if you looked at them, you died or something bad happened. If that happened in my world, I'd just look at them and go.
It is happening. Instead of putting the blindfold on your eyes, you have to put it on your nose.
Or your mouth.
And your mouth.
You have to keep shut. Or you see the comments are watching this.
The government is watching everything. Go China.
If Chinese ever take us, I love you, Xi Jinping.
I love you. Like Xi Jinping is the. Okay.
I love you, Vinny. No.
You're out. You're banned from China. You cannot go back to China. If you step on Chinese land, it was not me, Mr. Xi Jinping. It was not me. It happened on the other side of this mic. This side of the mic is
Mr.
clean.
Ping, I just want to say that I love Vinny and I don't think he's related to you. But I just love Vinny as he is. And I love you and the great nation of China. Please let me in.
People's Republic of China.
The great People's Republic of China. Because, yeah, I have to say that. Otherwise they'll come for me.
Actually, go to hell, Mr. Xi Jinping.
Shit. You don't both have a chances to go to China now.
No.
I want to go to Shenzhen and Beijing.
I'll just edit this part out. I'll not put this. Yeah, so when you edit this, just remove the part where we talk about China. You just cut the part, bro. Or maybe we can start from here. We can start from here.
Yeah.
Just cut the entire.
Yeah, that's boring. I mean, it's
minutes.
not like we have immediate plans to go out to China.
I want to go to China because China is huge, man. China used to be equivalent to India when I was younger, around 2000, in the year 2000. And it was a race. It was like China and India were going neck to neck as to who would dethrone the European stronghold first, followed by
Or the
the American stronghold. Eventually the American stronghold, and India and China were neck to neck. I remember knowing that I had this intuition that India and China are equivalent in terms of development.
I think that's what we were taught in school as well, and that's maybe supported by facts as well.
Yes, but now that's not the case. I think a large regions inside China, Shenzhen specifically, Beijing, they are first world countries.
I think China as whole is a first world
Not
country.
as a whole,
because even America has its own drawbacks, its own rural sides. So I can put up China as a first world country. It's a superpower. I think
it's a superpower. Yes,
it's better than
growing.
It's better than America.
It's very subjective because we as humans we are not good at interpreting or making sense of large numbers. So if you are just earning maybe 50,000 rupees per month, you will have a better sense of how much you have and how much you can spend. But if you are earning 50 crore rupees a month, you would not know how much money you have, and you might spend more than what you have because we don't have an inherent sense of large numbers. That's why when we say that the population of the world is 7.3 billion, we have no clue what it means. Like, can you imagine 7.3 billion?
Yes, when you break it down, then it looks like a very large number. But
Yes.
7.3 billion as a whole, it doesn't look very big.
Yeah, because you do not have an inherent sense of large numbers. And in that context, when we say that China has an economy of $14 trillion, yeah, it's a huge number, but we do not have a sense of what $14 trillion is. And we do not have a sense of how great, how hard it would have been to reach there. We do not have a sense of how that impacts the population, like 1.3 billion people that are in China, how that uplifts them or the problem that it causes. I generally know that when a country is richer, the problems go from food and shelter to mental illness. The Japanese people have the highest rate of loneliness. Same goes for Finland and Norway, but they don't come up in the news as much because of their happiness index is higher. I guess maybe they're not as lonely scientifically compared to Japanese people. But they're rich in the sense that everybody has enough resources. The same thing will happen to China because they have enough resources and they reach a point where they start expressing creativity. A company like DJI comes from China. Earlier, China was only known for copycat products.
I think even the car brand Neo, and the video game brand MiHoYo, the ones that made Genshin Impact.
There are many companies in China that are being creative, that are like first generation.
I guess it's the new generation.
Probably.
Their fathers and their father's generation have seen the upliftment from maybe agriculturals to industrialists.
Even more maybe, like this is the third generation because the second generation was serving the hardware needs of the world. and they used to work at factories, probably in bad conditions, and now they have up, like the level of being has uplifted to a point where they can afford to take risks and they can afford to express their creativity. And when a lot of people do that, some of them succeed, like DJI succeeded, and that will fuel the cycle. The same thing that happened with MIT in the 80s or 60s. I'd say as far as 1940s, when the war was at its peak, that's the time when the foundation for internet and the foundation for microcontrollers was laid. Following 1940s, we reached 1980s where the first personal computers came on the scene. 1980s to 1990, I'd say 1970 to 80s was the time, even 90s was the time where personal computer rose. And that led to the first generation of successful creatives, successful billionaires. That fuel, that money, that value that was generated fueled the growth of internet. That led to the second generation of billionaires.
Would you call yourself a first gen or the second gen?
We?
Of the people,
Me?
you, yes.
No,
of the
I'm
people who
out
had
of
their
the
personal computers, not billionaire. The people who had access to personal computers.
I would call myself, so first gen was the personal computer, second gen was the internet, third gen was mobile. That started in 2020. And
2020. I think it's like mid 2010s is when mobiles became quite common, at least in first world countries.
So the personal computer came to your palms in 2020, and it takes that much amount of research, maybe 10 years. 2008 was when the first iPhone came out, and that can be thought of as the milestone, as the landmark that we can look up to. It must have taken more than 10 years to develop that technology. There was also this thing called, what was the lab called? Do you know Bell Labs?
Graham Bell?
Yeah, Graham Bell, AT&T.
Heard of him.
Bell Labs and MIT, even Stanford and Caltech. All the innovation that we see today happened in one of these institutions, except for cryptocurrencies. Everything up to internet and mobile computing happened in one of the institutions or company in the valley. I don't know, I have never been to the United States, but I do have a sense that there is a scene, like an art scene, like it used to be in the time of Leonardo da Vinci. It was a scene, like everybody was doing something.
Don't you think that scene is shifting? From my perspective, maybe say 5 or 7 years ago from now, I used to see America as a huge nation, a nation that everyone looks up to. But now all I'm looking at is just people divided into maybe people who are racist, against blacks, against Asians.
Whatever you see on the, so right-wing politics is a global problem.
Whole American world divided into left-wing and right-wing.
Yeah, but
instead of being centralist and solving their problems.
The right-wing politicians are a global problem at the given moment. Right-wings are present in America, definitely. But in India, China was always right.
America has just shifted from right to left wing with Biden.
I think just they're extremist in both terms. Either you go to, I'm not a politician, let's not talk about that. The point that the truth is that what you see in media is the extreme right or the extreme left, whereas people are somewhere in between. Like when you see Bajrang Dal in India or when you see Sanghis in India, that's not how all the Sanghis are. That's not what all the Supreme Leader supporters are like. Some of them are like that. And the extremists make the most noise. Same goes for left-wing liberals as well. What you see with the gender movement is an extreme case and they make the most noise. But most people are in the center and they don't generally talk. They're quiet about it, they have their opinions, they do their work, and that's what keeps the system going. I think most people in America too are sane, are intelligent, and they are able to get things done, and they keep their opinions to themselves, and that's what keeps every country going.
So I have a question about China. You said that China rose from the level of a developing country to a developed or an almost developed country.
I think developed.
Developed, okay. And even now we see that people are living in a very better state. Alright? And the government is helping the businesses grow. Even if they're, whatever you want to call them, they're extremist. Authoritarian, but they're still helping their own businesses grow. But at the same cost, that growth has come with the suppression of minorities or the suppression of opinions.
Yes.
Was that worth it to get the growth that they are at today? Or should they have maybe have had all the opinions and all the, say, the other parties at the cost of not being as developed as they are today?
It's a private opinion, it doesn't matter.
But this podcast is just about our opinions, isn't it?
I think they did a great job. Raising people out of poverty is a tough thing to do, and it changes lives, it changes perspectives, it leads to a better level of living. So they did a great job. They did a great job in that sense. But from what I have known and what I have read, we know that it's an authoritarian state. It's
when we say that it's great, you cannot ignore what's happening to Uyghur Muslims in the concentration camps.
We also know that it's extremely corrupt at the top levels. The Chinese state is extremely corrupt at the top levels, and it is not willing to accommodate alternate faiths, like being a Muslim or being of any other religion for that matter, and they're not willing to accommodate alternate faiths. I don't know if they're right or wrong. As a human, I think if I see somebody suffering, I would feel bad about it. I feel bad when I hear about what's happening in the detention
camps.
But you
said you are not sure if that's right or wrong. Maybe not accepting another one's religion is okay, it's acceptable. But killing them just for the matter that they don't have the same religion as you or the religion that you don't follow, that's not really acceptable. For example, I can go out and I can say that worshipping unicorns is pretty stupid. But I'm not going to kill someone who worships unicorns.
Yes, you do not have any right to kill. I kind of agree with that. Like, even with what happened in Hong Kong, that was also an extreme. It's not what happened, it's currently happening in Hong Kong. That they took away their democracy, they installed pro-democratic, pro-China parties. They unleashed police brutality on students. Students were shot, like literally, students were shot by the police. And it is said that it was an infiltration of Chinese police in the Hong Kong state. The police that came over spoke Mandarin and not Cantonese. Cantonese is the language of Hong Kong. What they did was wrong, but I'm not in a position to. I do not know why they did it. They did not ask me.
But I guess as a basic human, you can say that it was wrong and I do not support it.
It does not affect me. It does not affect me at all. Their sufferings do not affect me. If you have to look at sufferings, you just walk the streets of Delhi. Then you know the homelessness. Then you will know the hunger. Then you know you know the wages that people are living on. We have support at our home, house helpers. They don't earn enough to even get a meal outside. If you start thinking like that, then you won't be able to eat yourself. So you have to draw a line somewhere. My general rule is, if I cannot change it, I'll not care about it. If I care about it enough, I'll change it. Same goes for Indian politics. What gives you the right to question another country when your own country is drowning?
Exactly.
Do you know there was a bill that was passed just yesterday? It's called the GNCT, something like that. Do you know about that?
Not really.
Do you know what that bill does?
No.
That gives the So Delhi is a union territory, which means there are governors installed by the center, which was initially a British hack to control the state. So they installed governors that would have a lot of powers in union territories.
So what was Delhi initially?
It was a union. It has been a union territory since
from the times of Mughals.
Since independence.
Since independence.
And the governors were installed by the British, so they could have control over the darbar of that union territory, the Raja's council, the king's council.
Is this before independence or
This
after
is pre-independence,
Okay.
but we continued that tradition. But instead, it can be seen as an instrument to have a control over the elected government of the state. And what?
Yes, so currently we are ruling with the CM, the Kejriwal Sarkar.
Yes. So what this bill does is takes a large proportion of the power that was given to the elected leader and puts it in the laps of the governor that was installed by the center.
So the governor is installed by the center.
And
so that means that's cheating for the people who voted.
Yes.
For
so
the
I
chief
voted.
minister.
If somebody voted for the chief minister and the chief minister wants to do good for them or bad for them, they'll have to consult the governor that was appointed by the center. And this bill was passed unanimously in the lower house.
Because the lower house is totally rigged by the government.
Not rigged, they have
It
a
is
majority.
rigged.
They have a majority.
That's what called rigging is called.
No, that's called majority in a democracy.
In a democracy, yes. If you're gonna be formal, if you're gonna be presenting your views to a lot of people, then yes. If it's just the two of us, it's gonna be called rigging.
People voted for them. People love them. How do you
I
define
don't really get it. Why do people love about these? How do you call it?
You have to talk to Sanghis to know why people love them.
The reasons are pretty stupid.
There are reasons regardless. They would think that your reasons are stupid.
I think my reasons are that the economy is going down to shit. Even if I know all of the...
But they don't care about the economy. They have their agenda and they're doing very well on their agenda.
They're not even doing well on their agenda.
They're
What
doing
is
great
their
on
agenda?
To make Muslims, to get rid of Muslims, basically.
But what good would that bring to me?
That's their agenda. If you care about that agenda, you vote for them. If you don't care about that agenda, you don't vote for them.
Why do people really vote for if someone is worshipping another man in the sky or not? But I would care to get rich. I would care that I have better roads. I would care that I basically have more money in my pocket.
Comes down to your values, as we talked the previous day. Values are generally influenced by your perspective. And which simply means that if you are in a bubble and somebody has influence in that bubble, they can technically influence your values. So you have to be observant and know what you are being influenced by. Maybe most people are not observant, maybe we are not observant, maybe we do not care about it, maybe we are not intelligent enough to understand why their agenda is valuable. But regardless of what we think, people of India love this extremist authoritarian government and they have the majority. The bill was passed in the Lok Sabha, the lower house. It was brought to a debate in the upper house. The entire opposition, Rajya Sabha has a significant representation of the opposition.
But Rajya Sabha doesn't have elected people, democratically elected
Yeah,
members.
but they have the bills have to pass both houses according to the constitution. The opposition walked out, which means that they said that we will not vote on this because if we vote on this, it will be passed. The right thing to do. They had a majority in the upper house as well because a lot of MPs, the lot of members of the Rajya Sabha had gone out for the rallies for the election. So the session was not complete. That's why the opposition was weakened at that moment, and that's when the government chose to put that bill on the table.
Now this is rigged. This is properly rigged.
Do you know what a lawyer does?
No.
A lawyer helps you break the law within the law, right? And they broke the law within the limits of the law. That's allowed. That's allowed. They did a great job at it. The opposition walked out because they knew if it goes to a vote, the members of the opposition is not strong enough because people have gone out to rally for the elections, and in a case of a walkout, it's the duty of the speaker to just wait for everybody to come back basically and then vote. So that's acknowledging that there's some problem with the bill and we should talk about it. That's what democracy should be. But what they did was they just passed the bill.
They bought the speaker as well.
The speaker is installed by the center.
Who is not installed by the center now? BJP who haven't installed it till now.
You are not installed. Probably you are installed by
BJP. Do you have a chip in my brain?
Maybe BJP installs their opposition and they then use that opposition to get more sympathy from their proposition.
Oh, maybe BJP have installed a liberal like me,
yes,
so that I can question the right-wing politicians, and then they'll give out
and then they'll
good
try
response.
they'll incite violence against you, and then they'll bring their own people just to keep things going.
Maybe the gods have been rigged by the BJP.
No, I don't think they are not at that.
I mean,
God is pure, man. They are.
It depends what you make out of God. God himself as an entity may be pure, but what people make out of him, you know what people do in the name of God, right? I'm not going to mention anything.
Kill.
I was not going to say that. But since the beginning of time, since the inception of God,
what people do is people's doing. God is not involved. God doesn't talk to us, bro. God is like, do your own shit. I have an account, like I am an accountant, I'll manage your accounts and we'll take care at the end. I'm not involved in your day-to-days. Like, he doesn't have time. God is done. They passed the law. It's a law now. You did not know. You live in Delhi.
It directly affects me.
It directly affects you. It directly affects the vote you gave probably. And the media did not talk about it.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I look at news every day, but I never really read about this.
Nobody talked about this. Happened yesterday, day before yesterday.
What about the liberal medias?
Nobody talked. Maybe NDTV talked about it, but not many people talked about it. And it happened, which basically means that they took the ability of the Delhi government to do good work. Because now they have to consult the Lieutenant Governor, which is installed by the center, if they want to install cameras, or if they want to have a new Mohalla clinic, or if they want to install street lights. And the BJP can simply stall that decision. That's what happened in the university when before the landslide victory of BJP, the Congress had a stronghold in the Delhi University, which meant that the NSUI would win most of the elections, and the office was controlled by Congress supporters, which were more open to new ideas, and they would fund projects, they would try new things, they would have conferences and events. When the BJP controlled VC took over, I've seen the original VC, who was probably a Congress supporter, and I know what a dynamic personality looks like, Dr. Dinesh Singh. I do not, you won't really remember the names of the VCs, but since I've talked to him, I've seen him speak, I understand his ideas to some extent and his ideologies. He has the capacity to inspire you. You talk to him, you'll know that this is somebody I can listen to. This is somebody I admire and I want to be like. He was a teacher, like he was a natural teacher who was working hard to take the university and maybe bring it to an international level. Indian education is not as good as like developed countries. This new VC that came over, he took on the office and they stalled every file.
But what does that benefit them? How does that benefit them? Is it
Probably
just
they
about...
don't want education because universities are centers for dissent. Because if you debate openly and you can criticize anybody openly and you have a high testosterone level, that leads to a very unstable situation. Imagine a few 120-year-olds can gather together in less than 20 minutes and protest on something, just have a conversation, a debate right there and start protesting. And they could reach maybe 10,000 people because that's the network, that's the power of the network they have. And that's a good breeding ground for dissent. It happens in every country, it has always happened. It happened pre-independence, it happened post-independence, it happened during the time of Indira Gandhi, it happened in Hong Kong recently, and that's why
it's happening in Myanmar.
It's happening in Myanmar, and that's why the authoritarian governments tend to attack universities. They're not attacking universities, they're attacking the mindset, they're attacking the fearlessness. They're afraid of that fearlessness because that can roll out of power, like roll out of control. Basically, it could snowball into an avalanche, and that might lead to the government falling.
But see, how can say installing a dustbin or maybe giving students some money to fund their projects affect
when you stall the flow of ideas? So if I have a project, if I'm a professor and I have a project and I want to research, and I know that if I go to the office and I put my grant forward, I will not be, the funding will not be sanctioned. I know that because that's how the office is behaving. I will not put the efforts to like get that grant in place. I will not take the efforts to put that proposal in place. And that's how you will kill your own self. That's how you will kill the flow of energy. And when you're not motivated because you do not know, you know that your grants will not be accepted, so you're not doing anything, you're not researching. You know that your projects will not be funded, so you're not taking any projects. You're just doing something that you can do on your own, sitting in your room. That's what your personality will become like. And then you will not try to, you will not be a breeding ground for dissent. Like they're killing the flow, that original energy that can be used as a breeding ground for dissent. If there's no energy, then there will be no dissent.
Would you say that the change of vice chancellor at Delhi University,
the entire office
at Delhi University has made Delhi University a shittier college or a university, and that BJP is to blame?
Yes, I've seen the shift. There was so much tension, there was so much protest. I've seen more police personnels. I've never seen more police personnels at the same time. There was tension in the air. I walked in that place and I felt bad about it. And it's only increasing. The way we feel about the entire city and the country, it starts in the university.
So you experienced the shift, but I never got to go to college and I don't have any plans currently. What would you say to the people who are currently in college or who have never seen that liberal front of the college and just studying in the authoritarian route?
So this is not the first time that this has happened. Monarchs used to do this all the time. Monarchs would kill movements, monarchs would kill centers of art, monarchs would destroy other centers of thought, philosophy. And whenever extremism raises to power, the alternate school has to go underground. And extremism has rose to power. And if you belong to an alternate school, you have to run to fight another day.
So where do you run? Do you run out of the country or do you just stay here?
Hide in plain sight. You do not let go of your perspective. You have to stay strong about that. You know what is influencing you. You have to stay vigilant about that. And you have to not let it affect you. And at the same time, increase your cognizance. And the best way to do it is to read. Like read what happened when the French Revolution was in place. Read the stories of the characters. Like read what happened. Read what Bhagat Singh did. Like how Mr. Azad and Mr. Singh and their entire team of people, they went underground, they went gorilla. How do you fight a monster? How do you fight a dragon who is maybe 100 times your size?
You stealth attack it,
yes.
And you attack its weak points.
Yeah, that's called guerrilla warfare. And the one of the basic elements of guerrilla warfare is to hide. You attack when the oppressor does not expect you to attack. Do you know in the Vietnam War, uh, America was obviously far more superior than the farmers who were fighting with sickles and bows and arrows, and they would fire from an aeroplane. Like they would fly a plane and they would bombard entire villages on the assumption that they are guerrilla warriors in that village. Do you know how the guerrilla warriors bypassed that issue?
Not really.
They just stayed close to the American camps.
This was like the trolley big brain movement.
Yes, and because they'll not bombard their own camps, so they
I
just stay
think this,
close.
I've heard this in the context of vehicles. So Americans used to also bombard the vehicles, the guerrilla warfare vehicles. We are going through ships in the rivers. But what the guerrilla fighters used to do was stay close to the bank of the river and instead fire at the American boats that were coming.
Right, exactly. We have, if you want to think about what's happening specifically in the case of India, you have to know that the ends are sealed properly, which means normal forms of dissent will not work because the media is rigged. If you start, you know how many protests are going on? Do you know this 1 year ago there was a riot in Delhi? You know
I
that
remember.
kids were beaten?
Yes. Farmers' protest is still going on.
And nobody covers that, which means that the OG forms of dissent have been taken care of. Apart from that, there's also an undercurrent of misinformation and hatred that is flowing in our country. I feel that. So, normal forms of dissent, what worked in the French Revolution, will not work. They know that it worked and they know how to suppress that. They have suppressed it
I
already.
guess even they had a plan before
Yes.
coming here.
Exactly, they had a plan. You do not have a landslide victory like that with a person who
With just luck.
technically incited the riots, who did nothing when people were being killed.
Is that the Gujarat riots?
Yes, the Gujarat
When Modi
riots.
was banned out of America.
Yes,
And then why was he still invited back? Even if the blood of those people is on his hands.
it was never proven. First and second, he rose to power. That's why. We do not even know because everything is rigged. How do we dissent? Like, how do we dissent? First of all, we have to go underground. If you are not allowed to speak, then you have to stay shut. And you have to stay shut until the opportunity arrives. Like you are waiting for the time when the tide changes. They have spent so much money on one face that one face is not eternal. Which means at some point of time they'll start spending money on another face. That we have to hope that doesn't work.
How do you know that when the tide is shifting or it has shifted?
I think I'll have a feeling. I'll have an intuition. You will also have an intuition. Because have you felt that the tide has shifted? Do you feel hatred in the air?
But I think I've never really experienced that the Congress rule or the rule before the
I think the
rules.
problems with the previous government were different. They were more corrupt, but they were less authoritarian and more humanitarian, but they were corrupt to the core. That's what I heard. I was too young to know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's what I've heard as well. That if you want to do something in the Congress government, you gotta pay it out.
Yeah. These people are corrupt as well.
I mean, you still gotta pay it out.
Yeah, but
But there's an extra mix of hatred,
hatred, right-wing nationalism, identity,
cow worshipping.
God rakshaks. We cannot eat beef in India. I would be afraid. I know that it has reached, it has been sewed into the fabric of the society. When I am afraid to speak, that's when I know that it is there.
I think talking about beef, even my liberal-ish friends who are non-vegetarian, I tell them that beef is a pretty good thing when cooked properly, and they go like, "Oh, that's shit like that.
You
Because
have to be observant of these influences. We certainly have these biases which are fed to us. So we have to be observant and we have to figure out our biases, and then we have to let go of those biases. Like internally in my head, in my college I had a lot of Muslim people and I would be friends with them without caring that they were Muslims. Like, they are my friends. I don't care about what their second name is. Right now, since I have not been in touch with most people, but they are vilified to such an extent that I might unconsciously feel uncomfortable around a Muslim person. That's a bias that was induced in me by whatever the marketing.
But don't you think that it's at some level, even it's your problem that you're feeling uncomfortable in the presence of a Muslim person?
It was a bias that was induced in me.
Yes, so don't you have to shield yourself from
Yes, that's what they said.
bias?
You have to shield yourself. You have to be observant about the biases that you are building, and you have to observe them, and then you have to get rid of them. But first, you have to observe them, and only then you can get rid of them. Somebody induced it, and they did a great job at inducing it. I know I have it. I know I'll probably get rid of it. But I don't think many people will observe this. And most people might not even care. Most people might think that's what their idea is, which means that somebody did a great job at marketing. So you have to go underground. You have to observe your biases. That's what I mean by that. And you have to wait for the opportune moment. Ideally, you should be starting a movement. Do you know about the Russian movement?
The Russian Revolution?
I think the same thing. No, the current. I'll just let you know the name of the Russian president. The president candidate.
Bro, we've already been banned from China.
No, we're not banned from China. We love Xi Jinping.
What we've spoken, will probably get us deported from our homeland as well, while trying to get us banned from Russia as well.
There's a documentary called The Richest Man in the World. YouTube.
By the way, Xi Jinping, Mrs. Ping, I still love you. While he's researching, let me butter you up.
America currently has a president that was...
Why am I not able to find this? Russian execution, Russian assassination.
Was he called
This dude.
Nazarovich?
Yeah, Nazarovich. Can you spell that?
No, but it's Nazrovich, something like that.
Russia.
I mean, if he's such a powerful man, he must have got that removed.
No, it's present. It's on YouTube. There was a documentary, and it was a Vice documentary. I'll just link it. Vice Russia. I'll just turn it on my screen capture so everybody can see that. I think everybody can see my screen now. Where is OBS? Just let me capture this window correctly. Google Chrome. Show window, shadow, show windows. Extra picture, maybe. I'm not getting it right now.
You can link it later on.
Yeah, we can link it later on probably. There was a Vice documentary on Russia. Vice, Russia. Oligarch maybe. Vice, Russia. Democracy, Vice, Russia. Putin.
Maybe. If he's such a powerful man, then why couldn't
I
he
forgot
have
his
gotten
name.
removed?
I don't know why he could not get it removed. This dude, Navalny. His name is Alexei Navalny. And the Russian media is rigged. The Russian government, the KGB, is rigged. They control influence. They control the top They control the resources basically, and also trade, and they also control the judiciary. So you cannot fight against Putin. Like similar to what is happening in India.
Is it like China as well, where the authoritarian government is helping the people at least grow their economy?
Yeah, but
or
they're not helping the people either.
Oh, so
they're
it's
just
like India,
helping
not like China.
Yes, there's just with India there's an assumed higher goal of making India free, like making India for Hindus. That's the assumed higher goal. With Putin, it seems like with Russian government, it seems that it's just to make them rich, the KGB rich, the top layer.
The government.
Yes, and this dude is a lawyer. Alexei Navalny is a lawyer, and he just started reading laws, and then he just started finding the loopholes that were introduced by the government, and he started exposing them. That's one thing he did. Second, he looked into the histories of these people, and he tried to connect everybody to what is happening. For example, there was a company, a public company that dealt in oil that was being auctioned. And one of the members of the winning auction was anonymous. And they had put in almost 20% of the shares. He figured out who those members were, and he was able to link them back to Putin. And he concluded that 20% anonymous share is Putin. He also then looked into the propaganda. So one of the propaganda is, he says that it's a propaganda.
So is that the share, the 20% share, is it Putin's personal share or is it the state
That's
share?
what he claims. That
The personal
it is
share.
Putin earned that money somehow through corruption maybe, and then he is investing. He also tried to expose the propaganda that Putin is portrayed as a nationalist KGB spy who helped Russia.
I think he had told me this.
Yes, and there's generally a picture that shows up at the KGB
Yeah,
meeting
yeah,
where he's given a spy badge. He said that you can get that spy badge for $3 on eBay. That was the level of his involvement, and that was his stature. And now
You see, you told me he was just like a very low level office clerk at KGB,
Yeah.
but not a spy.
I don't know, maybe he's a spy, I don't know his. I'm just saying that Navalny created an alternate instrument of dissent. So he came out with these fact sheets. He was a good planner, so he was able to plan movements. He was a good orator maybe, and he was able to garner interest. And he did that with facts and openness. I think the people in Russia are very cold, like they do not express.
Is it like
emotions.
the weather that's making them cold?
Maybe. I'm an Indian, so we are overly expressive. Like we will talk to strangers and we'll talk like we are family. We'll share food with strangers. Like I would share food with everybody, and I'd also probably eat it. I'll probably eat food from a stranger.
I guess even as an Indian, when I'm talking, my head moves naturally.
Yeah.
My arms move about a lot.
Yeah.
And someone else finds it very strange.
Yes. And we don't have a sign for yes, like this is yes. But it's built into us. Like we are generally, I don't think it's built into, especially North Indians. I would say it's built into North Indians that we talk more and we talk to everybody, and we don't stay shut. Whereas
And
people
in fact, more North Indians interact more with other North Indians. So if you're North Indian, it will
we
seem
are
like
bloody racist.
yeah.
Indians are fucking racist.
Yeah, it will seem like if you're living in North India, it will seem like that people are very accepting and they talk to everyone. But as soon as you step out of that bubble, you'll realize that people are very racist and they do not talk to others.
That means that we are also racist.
Yes.
Delhi is the most racist. Every city in India is racist.
I mean, I see Indians outside complaining that they feel racism against them. But inside, they're racist against each other.
Exactly.
One type of Indian is racist against another type of Indian. Why? Because your chutney is not spicy enough, bitch.
Yeah. And we call every Northeast Asian.
Let's not say that. Let's not say that. Because
Navalny came up with alternate forms of dissent. He stood in the elections. He was removed on embezzlement charges. Embezzlement is Russia's way of saying that you're anti-national.
What does embezzlement as a word mean?
I don't know what embezzlement means. Embezzlement means a fraud. Embezzlement meaning refers a form of white collar crime. That means that you did something that you shouldn't have done, and it's very subjective. And he was removed on embezzlement charges. He was an assassination was attempted on him twice. He was poisoned, but he survived.
It sounds like Rasputin has incarnated.
Probably. And he's a strong man. Like, Russians are huge, like tall, they're huge, they're built, they look very manly and aggressive. And he survived, he stood for the elections, he was removed on embezzlement charges. When a second assassination was attempted on him, he had to flee. Because if he went to Russia, he would be killed. Because it's Russia. He went to East Germany, he got himself treated.
East Germany, is it like this time before the Berlin Wall fell down?
Just Germany, like east side of Germany, but just Germany. He went to Germany, got himself treated, came back, and he knew that as soon as he lands, he'll be arrested. He scheduled a YouTube video that would go live as soon as he lands, and that YouTube video was this documentary that I got all my information from, that stated that Vladimir Putin is privately the richest man on the planet, and it went through different aspects of his life, one of which was a villa that it's an estate that he had created. It's like a small city, and they are pouring money into that estate. That estate has an underground hockey rink. That estate has a rugby field. That estate has escape hatches. It just faces the sea. The back of that estate cannot be reached like as far as 80 kilometers. You cannot reach that estate. It's on the edge. And he claims that it belongs to Putin. He had some papers. He did that research and he showed that how the network of corruption works, how Putin installs his friends at high places and then they just rip the country apart. That documentary went live as soon as he landed. It's still there. That means that everybody who watches this would to some extent support Navalny, and he cannot be assassinated. He cannot be executed.
So where's Alexei now?
I don't know what's Alexei Navalny doing. Alexei Navalny news. He says he's being tortured in prison. That's one day ago. His health has sharply deteriorated in jail. That's the Guardian. Health worsens in penal colony. That is dw.com. And he says that he's being tortured in prison, which sounds very reasonable. Because he's a presidential candidate. He ran against Putin. His seat, his ticket was cancelled.
But he ran for it.
Alternate forms of dissent.
So what's gonna happen to him now?
I hope he wins.
But right now he's being tortured and his health is deteriorating.
I do not want this to happen, but the worst thing that could happen is that he is executed. When you kill a revolutionary, you give rise to 100 revolutionaries.
So do people in Russia have the access to the documentary that Alexei made?
Probably it was taken down in that city, but it's on YouTube, it's live, so you can go
through VPNs
and watch it. I think everybody would have access to it. I want him to succeed. My best wishes to him. I would pray for him, and I hope that he comes out of that jail healthy and with more strength. This experience will make him stronger if he comes out. And at the worst, it will lead to 100 other Navalnys. That's the problem with you. That's what you cannot beat. You cannot beat the human motivation. You cannot beat the tenacity that exists in every human being, no matter if you take everything from it. You cannot take that. You just cannot take that tenacity away. And that's the point of going underground right now. So you have to know that there will be a time. That time would come, and the tide will change. That's how nature corrects it. Man, we had worse people. We had Hitler on this planet. We had the OG Japanese that would kill everybody. we had the colonial rule in India. That was pretty bad. Like most British people don't know it, but it was bad. Large parts of it were bad.
Unless you were Indian aristocrat.
We had Mughal rule. We had what Mughals did to India.
Wasn't Mughal rule a good thing, a good period?
It was, they helped India flourish, but there are also stories of discrimination, extreme discrimination, and authoritarianism.
I guess that's the least that you expect out of a monarchy.
Yeah, you had Greek and Mongolians conquering almost the entire world multiple times. So worse things have happened, and we have come out fine, better maybe. Jordan Peterson says that at this moment there are more obese people than malnourished people, which might not be a good indicator of growth, but it is something. Like, we are able to provide to a large number of people.
And that large number is concentrated in one part of the world?
In all sections of the world. There was the number of people who are at the absolute minimum level, who are radically poor, have reduced significantly over the past 3 years, and it is still reducing. It has probably reduced by 50% or more, and it is still reducing. Which means that as humanity, even with these amplified signals of hatred, we are growing. There has to be some good that we talk about. Everything is not bad. What we generally hear is bad because hatred sells more. Hatred is hot. But as humans, we are growing. I am in a better position personally, financially, emotionally, in terms of my health. That was supposed to be the topic of today's podcast. I'm in a better position than I was 3 years ago. According to research that is conducted by the United Nations, most people are, despite of the climate change, despite of the right-wing takeover of the global political scene, despite of the wars that are happening, despite of the floods and the fires, and the homelessness and the sickness and the virus and everything else that is bad on the face of this planet, there's still enough good, and the good is increasing. We just don't address it, because if it's right, then we don't care about it. So we're doing well. We are objectively doing well. We're also failing miserably, but we are also doing well. And you have to acknowledge both these entities.